So, my name is Susie, and I work for an agency called Covenant House Toronto. For anyone who's not familiar, we're Canada's largest agency serving youth who are homeless, trafficked, and at risk. And at Covenant House, we've been around since 1982, and we've done a lot during that time. The way that I like to describe us, it's like one-stop shopping, everything that a young person needs to get off the streets and into a future. So at Covenant House, we have a 5-year anti-trafficking plan, which includes prevention and early intervention to help keep young people safe, direct services to survivors to help them rebuild their lives and to heal. But also, we want to share all the work that we've done, the knowledge that we've gained with the public to increase community awareness. So where my department falls into, Covenant House and the larger picture, we do awareness, prevention, and early intervention. So essentially, we are the school-based awareness and prevention education program. And our wheelhouse includes youth homelessness and sex trafficking. What other things that we do? We also provide presentations like these for parents and adults to increase awareness in the community, but we also train hotel staff and hospitality industry staff to recognize warning signs and to safely intervene. So my program has been around since 1987, and in that time, we've supported over 675,000 students. We've delivered over 12,000 presentations in over 4,000 schools all around the Toronto GTA area. We operate with 1 or 2 facilitators every year, and we've been in business for 37 years. Our goal is to give a dynamic performance, to engage young people, to meet them where they are. As you know, Gen Z and Gen A, right? They have like a 8-second or less attention span. So we build decks and we create, and customize content to be able to teach these young people about these important issues. We let them know that homelessness or sex trafficking, they're not problems that, are in other countries and on foreign shores, that these are issues that we're dealing with right here at home. So we offer 3 presentations in our roster, and the one that we're going to focus on today is actually trafficked, and that's sex trafficking awareness and prevention. So we offer this presentation to grade 7s and up in the school system. The presentations are free. They range between 60 and 90 minutes. We do them in person or virtually. They're multimedia, interactive. They include youth stories to bring the issues alive. We reinforce their learning and make sure that they understood us clearly with Kahoot challenges. And then we give them student resources at the end to help them remember what we've taught them and where they could go to get help and support should they ever need it. We tie all of our presentations to education and make sure that educators know the connections to curriculum. So before we begin any presentation, like I will today, I'll let you know that learning about youth homelessness or sex trafficking can be difficult or upsetting. So if there's anything that I talk about today, I want to make sure that everyone gets the help and support that they need. So that might mean, reaching out to somebody who you trust for support, maybe a therapist, maybe your HR, right? And if it's a young person, we ask them to reach out to the social workers, the child and youth workers, the guidance counselors, the psychology associates within their schools. So do whatever you need to do to feel safe and to get through the material with me. So, a lot of people are familiar with different kinds of trafficking, drug trafficking, weapons trafficking, labor trafficking, but most people don't understand that sex trafficking is actually the most common form of trafficking in Canada. I'm going to teach you more about sex trafficking today. It's when somebody is lured, tricked, manipulated to sell their body to make money for somebody else. So a lot of people think this doesn't happen in Toronto, that it doesn't happen in Canada. It's happening in the 416, it's happening in the 905, every neighborhood and every background. Sex trafficking is happening right now while we're doing this parent presentation in houses, apartments, condos, Airbnbs, hotels, and motels that we might walk by or drive by every day on our way to work or on our way anywhere in the city. Now, when we watch movies that include the theme of human trafficking, you might see a victim, who's transported over a border and flown somewhere international, or somebody who gets snatched while they're on vacation. So I want you to know, sex trafficking, It doesn't require transporting anybody anywhere. And what we're actually seeing in the movies is a depiction of human kidnapping and human smuggling, which are different crimes. You could have one person locked in one room, they never leave that room, and they can get trafficked same way. So right now, the province of Ontario, we represent 2/3 of the domestic sex trafficking that's happening in this country. And the Toronto GTA area, we've been identified as a major hub. So at Covenant House, we've been on the ground for the past 40 years, supporting survivors of sexual exploitation and sex trafficking. And we hit it at two ends. So you have my team, we go into schools all around South Central Ontario to educate young people, your children, so that they can recognize warning signs, build protective factors, so that something like sex trafficking never happens. But if it does, we have an advocate team who provides support, who helps survivors rebuild their lives. Now, it's my colleagues' work with survivors that helps me identify where the gaps in knowledge are. Survivors tell us they didn't know what a normal healthy relationship looks like. They didn't understand what was happening to them when it was happening. They didn't have the right words to describe what was happening to somebody else. They were often too embarrassed to ask for help, and even if they needed help, they didn't know where to find it. So, what our presentations aim to do, we aim to fill all those gaps. We introduce young people to traffickers' tactics. We talk about healthy relationships. We also teach them, how to recognize red flag warning signs, give them tips to protect themselves. And then at the end of our presentations, we let them know where they can get help and support should they ever need it. So who gets trafficked? Short answer, anybody. Victims are regardless of age, gender, sexual orientation, socioeconomic status, neighborhood, race, or religion. There's no such thing as a typical victim anymore. So right now, there's an estimated 16,000 cases of sex trafficking in Canada. Now, keep in mind, this is a crime that goes underreported. There are a lot of victims out there who might be embarrassed or ashamed and struggling and suffering in silence. And contrary to popular belief, this is not a crime where they're stealing children from another country and then bringing them here to exploit them. 93% of people being trafficked in this country are Canadian. That means this is a crime that's impacting our young people from our schools and our communities. Female victims are lured as young as age 13. Male victims are lured as young as age 14. And we see Indigenous victims lured as young as age 8. And the only thing that these young people have in common is some kind of vulnerability. And the thing about vulnerabilities is that they could be anything, literally anything, and we all have them. It could be a young person, who's experiencing homelessness. They're cut off from family and friends and all of their normal support networks, feels all alone in this world. But it could be another young person, came out the other side of COVID-19, dealing with social anxiety, something they never had before. They're at a party on Saturday night, feel uncomfortable and awkward like a fish out of water, and they can't wait to go home. It could be another young person. That one never gets invited to the parties, so is gaming online, looking for attention, looking for validation, trying to convince himself he's cool too. It could be another young person. He got invited to the party, but it seemed like a couple's party. He's been questioning his sexuality, not comfortable being out and open and dating just yet, so took himself out of the equation, and he too feels lonely tonight. We all have different vulnerabilities. Traffickers try to figure out what our vulnerabilities are in order to use them against us. So where do traffickers find their victims? Literally anywhere and everywhere that young people are. Traffickers are online, they're at malls, they're at schools, they're at parties, they're at bus stops, and they're at libraries. And it's a mix of different settings over different moments. Most people think that trafficking happens in like, boom, one big dramatic event. I'm going to tell you it doesn't. It's usually a series of moments and interactions that look like everyday regular life, everyday regular relationship building. And unless you're looking at it from a big picture perspective with an awareness lens, you might not even see it for what it is. Roughly half, 50% of the survivors we've supported, they were trafficked when they were still living at home with their families, right under their families' noses. So we want young people to be able to see it, recognize it, understand what's happening so they can protect themselves and each other. So during our presentations with your children, what we do, we describe some scenarios to them and then we ask them to do a gut check, right? And if they think it's good, they're safe, no worries, we ask them to give us a thumbs up. If they think that they're in danger, that these are red flag warnings, that they should give us a thumbs down. And if they're not sure, but they think it's kind of suspicious, we ask them to give us a sideways thumb, right? So the first scenario that we roll out to young people, We ask them, somebody you just met at a party asked for your phone number. Is that safe? Is that unsafe? Or is that sus? And the majority of young people, right, will give this a sus. Now, here's the thing. Young people, they don't voice chat or SMS nearly as much as somebody my age. They snap and they DM, and there's actually some advantage to that. Unless their first name and last name is their username, unless they have their phone number publicly available to everybody on their contacts list, they can socialize online with a certain degree of safety. Because let's say they're talking to somebody who rubs them the wrong way, gets inappropriate, or maybe just starts boring them to death. They can block them, unfriend them, unfollow them, and likely never hear from them again. That's not necessarily true. When somebody's got your first name, your last name, and your phone number, they can Google you and information about you might pop up. They can stick your phone number into Canada 411 reverse phone lookup. If your phone number is attached to an address, now they know where you live. If they know where you live, they can make a good guess on where you go to school. It's usually the public school or the Catholic school in the area. They'll know where the closest gyms are, closest malls are, all the best places to eat, and where young people hang out. So if this is somebody that they have blocked, they have no interest in having in their lives, or that person is insistent and they want to reinsert themselves, they'll know to hang out in your general area to accidentally bump into them again. And it only costs them $1 to track the IP. We ask them how they feel about, somebody that they've been talking to, sending them, a message about something that they posted about 3 months ago. So where we go with this, we let them know that generationally there are differences to how we, operate online. And that for Gen Z and Gen A, the younger generation, anybody creeping back into their older historical posts, so any post that's over like a week old is usually considered a creeper or a stalker. We let them know that where this comes into play, they might be gaming online. They might be, playing on Snapchat or streaming, TikTok, and they make new friends and they get along like a house on fire. So they graduate off of one platform onto another platform. Well, it could be that they make new friends that are genuinely interested in getting to know them better. But we let them know that it's also possible they're talking to somebody who's only pretending to be a young person in order to take advantage of them. So if they're not sure, we advise young people to do a Google reverse image search. They might make a new friend who sends them a pic, right? They can take that pic, put it into that search and find out, is it a stock image? Has that image been used, in scams or in fraud? These days, traffickers are recruiting online, whereas in the olden days, they used to have to do it in person, face to face. But we all went online. So now they're recruiting off of Snapchat, Instagram, PlayStation, Twitch, Fortnite, Minecraft, Discord. They are online where young people are. And then COVID pandemic didn't help us, right? We all got driven online. School went online, work went online, and that created a perfect storm for traffickers because so many people felt socially isolated and lonely. That made a lot of people more receptive to traffickers' advances. So we advise young people, if they're talking to somebody online who they've never met in person and don't know anybody who's ever met them in person, to take it with a grain of salt, to realize that they might meet somebody on Roblox, somebody on TikTok, and somebody on Snapchat. From the offset, it might seem like different people, right? And they might form different kinds of relationships with these people. Might be romantically interested in one, just, friend zoned with another, and another one, might be just help with the gaming. And between all these new friends, any insecurity, any need for help, any need to win at that game is satisfied and justified. Anything that they might say, admissions of vulnerability, they're going to be assured, that you're great, that they suck, that you're amazing. Not only that, they're going to be assured that that person has their back. What a lot of young people don't realize is that these predators create fake profiles, right? And they don't come at them with just one fake profile. They're talking to them with multiple fake profiles because they want to get different angles, much more information, and then they'll use all of that information to manipulate them later. For instance, in this scenario, it could be that one of them breaks this young person's heart, but then the other one is there to pick up the pieces and comfort. And then the other one is the one that says, no, forget about all of those. I'm the one that you should be counting on. So we ask young people to be careful, about who they're connecting with online, to know that these things happen, right? And to keep their privacy settings on high. We ask them how they feel about somebody, who used to make fun of them, being nice to them all of a sudden. We let them know that it could be maturity and confidence that's happening, that it could very well be that somebody's had a crush on them for years. But we also let them know that traffickers pretend to be their friends in order to take advantage of them. Traffickers enlist the help of young peer recruiters. Young people have access to spaces where young people are. They blend in, they don't stand out, right? Now, these so-called friends, they recruit with promises of popularity, glamour, excitement, and fun. But we assure young people very rarely are their lives all that exciting and fun. Oftentimes they're recruiting so that they don't have to do it. Or maybe the trafficker's threatening somebody that they care about. So they're throwing this next young person to the wolves in order to save the people that they care about. We show them a video, Eva's story. So it's one of our youth, and the story was animated for educational purposes. I'll share the story with you right now.
My name is Eva. I was lured into sex trafficking when I was 17 by my so-called best friend. Let's talk about sex trafficking. My family moved around a lot when I was a kid, so I didn't have a lot of friends. All I ever wanted was to fit in for once. I got my first job in grade 12 at the mall. That's where I met Allie. She was older and really popular. I couldn't believe she wanted to hang out with me. We did everything together. Lunches, manicures. She was always telling me about these parties. Then one day...
There's a party tonight. You should come.
Okay. I'd never been to anything like this before. Drinks, drugs, older guys. Yeah, I was a little nervous, but I wanted to impress Allie and feel like I belonged.
Be chill, girl. Have some fun.
Oh, I guess? Allie started to show me around, introducing me to her friends. That's when I met Josh.
Hey, you ever modeled before?
Me? I was flattered. It was my first time getting complimented like that. Hey, wait, what's going on?
Girl, chill. You're having a good time, right? Just go and show Josh your appreciation. You kind of owe it to him.
Yeah, it's his party. We all do it.
The whole thing felt kind of off to me, but I didn't want to make a big deal out of it. No one invites the girl that keeps killing the mood. So, yeah, we had sex. Allie acted like it was nothing, like it was the natural thing to do, but maybe I was just overreacting. That's what I ended up telling myself, at least. But inside, I was confused and freaking out.
Not too bad, right? That's how it works if you want to hang out with us. I heard about another party next week. Want to come and make some cash on the side?
For the first time, I had friends. If only I had known. This isn't friendship. A week later, we went out again. Allie introduced me to a new guy.
He's so into you. You know he helped me get a modeling job. If you impress him, maybe we can do one together. Trust me, I can handle your money, make sure you're with people I know, so you'll always be safe. You're with me now. I'll take care of you.
So, I had sex with him, too. The whole thing felt gross, but like Allie said, that's just how it works. I was ready to do anything to stay friends. So she kept encouraging me, bringing more guys, and making me feel like I was doing something really great. But I had a huge knot in my stomach every time. I really trusted Allie, and finally felt like I belonged. In the beginning, she made it sound like I had a lot of choice and control, but that quickly changed. She'd make me feel guilty if I didn't want to do something, or threaten to tell everyone what I was doing. In the end, I was left with nothing. No control, choices, or money. It's easy to say now that I should have listened to my gut. I was lured in by someone I trusted and terrified of letting her down, but this is how sex trafficking can start.
So we let young people know, that recognizing who traffickers are is extremely difficult, even for somebody like me. That not all traffickers are male, not all traffickers are strangers. They could be female, trans, non-binary, people we know.
The idea of people being taken or kidnapped is a myth. The truth is that most victims know their traffickers.
A survivor of human trafficking recently told her story and explained, "I was trafficked from the age of 12 to the age of 25. I didn't realize that they were my traffickers until after. Things changed when they became abusive and controlling."
So we advise young people, it's not just about stranger danger these days, that the boyfriend, the girlfriend, the best friend, the friend, the colleague, the coach, who also seems too good to be true, be wary of them too. We ask them how they feel about somebody they've been dating, confessing to have fallen in love with them within a week's time. Now, we let them know it could be true love, it could be true romance, but it could also be that they're getting played. We ask them, to trust their guts, that if it feels like it's moving too fast, to slow it down. We assure them that if it's legit and it's meant to be, they'll end up together in the end. But that if it's somebody trying to play them or manipulate them, slowing it down might buy them the time they need to see it for what it is and to protect themselves. We let them know that over 33% of victims said that they were lured by people they thought were their boyfriends. Now, another thing that we clarify, oftentimes human trafficking or sex trafficking is referred to as gender-based violence, violence against women. And usually when you hear a victim's story, it's a female, she and her. We let young people know that victims are also male, they're also trans, they're also non-binary, and that traffickers are also female, trans, and non-binary. So the only reason that we use any kind of gender pronouns in our presentations is because that's how the pictures read, that's how the pictures speak, or that's whose story we have permission to share. We let them know some wise advice from a survivor named Margie Dell.
If someone's telling you they love you in the first couple days, if someone's pressuring you to do sexual things or things that you're not comfortable with, that is not love and that's not a real relationship.
So we advise young people that traffickers are always looking to offer something that we need, something that we want, something that we lack. They're looking for our hook. We familiarize them with the 4 different stages in the trafficking cycle. A trafficker starts by creating dependency. They will bomb a victim with love, trust, gifts, and drugs. They'll sell them a dream of happily ever after, fairy tale romance. When the victim buys in, when the victim falls for that dream, that's when the trafficker knows now they've got them and they can tighten their grip. They start to isolate, disorient them, take away their money, take away their IDs, control their possessions, cut them off from family and friends and all of their normal support networks. Now, let's say that victim, has a moment of clarity and thinks, I don't want to do this anymore. This is not what I signed up for. That's when punishment kicks in. The trafficker might use threats, threaten to hurt them, threaten to hurt their family, threaten to ruin the reputation online, might deprive them of food or sleep or basic needs to keep them weak and compliant and under their control. Control is the trafficker's ultimate goal, and how they try to establish that. They try to establish a trauma bond with that victim, and what that essentially means. If that victim truly believes that the trafficker really loves them, if they truly believe that everything that's happening, everything that they're doing is a means to an end, they're working and saving up towards, their condo or their future together, their continued buy-in into that dream of happily ever after, those are the invisible chains that bind them. That's why they don't try to run away. That's why they don't try to escape, because they really believe the trafficker loves them. And remember, they love the trafficker in return too.
So you got to a point where you weren't thinking, I need to escape, I need to escape?
No, because I cared about him so much.
We share another story, Kay's story, right? About how it happened to her with somebody that she was dating. We ask them to look for moments where, their guts might not feel comfortable, where they think it's going to start to go wrong.
My name is Kay. I'm 20, and for the past 3 years, I was bought and sold for sex.
Let's talk about sex trafficking.
It all started when I was 17. My grades were bad, my parents were always fighting, and I felt invisible. Until one day, this guy DM'd me. He graduated a few years back, and this was the first time we talked. He was cute and funny, and a good distraction from everything that was going on.
Hey, what's up? Looking good. Your last pic was great.
Thanks, LOL. Parents are at each other again. I really can't take this. Super glad I have you.
No one gets you like I do. I'm here for you, Kay.
We started texting, sexting, dating. Things were moving kind of fast, but he made me feel special. He understood me. Mark was generous and always buying me things, but he could also get scary, angry sometimes.
Who are you texting?
No one, I promise. Mark was always there for me, but sometimes he'd get angry, jealous, didn't want me hanging with my friends. I thought it was because he loved me, so me and my friends started to drift, and I tried hard not to make him mad. Mark made me feel like he was all I needed, and then one day he had an idea, to make some quick money so we could escape my mess of a life.
We can do anything, go anywhere we want, Kay, but I need your help. Let's try it once, just this one time.
He asked me to have sex with a stranger. I remember thinking, what kind of boyfriend does this? I didn't want to make him mad, and he made me feel like I owed him.
Babe, think about our future.
What started as a one-time thing quickly became much more. Mark kept reminding me it was for us, so I kept going. At first, I felt in control, but then I never felt so alone. I was too ashamed to tell anyone. Eventually, it broke me down in every way. I told him again and again that I was done, but he threatened to tell my friends and family what I was doing. I was so scared and ashamed. Love turned into survival, so I kept going. Looking back, it's easy to ask why I didn't listen to my gut. I thought Mark loved me, that he was the only one who understood me. So I did things I never thought I would do.
So we have a discussion with youth, all right? And we talk about all of the red flag indicators or warning signs that they might perceive. But then we also let them know that some of those warning signs might not necessarily be indicative of a trafficking relationship, that they actually might present themselves in healthy, unhealthy, or abusive relationships same way. The moment that they start talking about making money for their future and taking those sexy pictures, that's when luring and grooming becomes evident. We let them know that when it's us and it's happening to us personally, it's really hard to see it. You know, we're optimistic. We want to believe in the best of people. We want to give love and romance a chance. We let them know that sometimes we forgive people. We ignore the signs, right? But here's the thing, you know, when you're dating somebody who's totally disrespecting you, right? Then your best friend is not wearing goggles. Your best friend is not blinded by rose-colored glasses. So we ask young people to watch each other's backs, to watch out for behavior that is out of character. You know, somebody who all of a sudden, you know, is rolling in the cash money. They've got all sorts of gifts. They, you know, have all sorts of swag. You know, we let them know that predators will try to create a sense of obligation or duty to reciprocate. And we assure young people, you know, that people can be generous with them during their relationships, but that they don't owe them anything. We tell them to watch out for a young person who glows up all of a sudden and overnight. You know, somebody who starts withdrawing from family and friends, skipping school, disappearing for days at a time, you know, experimenting with substances. We let them know that traffickers will often, you know, introduce drugs into the relationship to start to create dependency. We tell them to watch out for a friend who starts lying to them, you know, who might start dating somebody new, but is not bringing that person around, is not introducing them, and spends more and more time online on their phone, all consumed by that relationship to the point where they stop hanging out with their friends and their crew like they used to. Maybe they're hanging with a new crowd, usually an older crowd. The signs of luring and grooming. It's like getting all of the chess pieces on the board in the right places so that a trafficker can checkmate later. We let them know that when they start seeing these more elevated warning signs, that it's a strong indication that their friend is being exploited. We ask them to watch out for somebody, you know, who's frequently out late at night. And then, you know, most of the time you don't know where they are. When they're getting picked up and dropped off, it's always different cars and different people. Somebody who's consistently hanging out with a much older new crowd and doesn't have like an alpha or, you know, sigma position. They're calling it sigma these days in that crowd. They might have looked good, you know, they had the glow up, but now they're exhausted, they're run down when they're being exploited. They might have different stages of trauma on their body, old cut, new cut, old bruise, new bruise. Mood-wise, they appear fearful, anxious, depressed, paranoid at the same time. We tell them to watch out for a friend who might have a strange tattoo, that a lot of traffickers started to tattoo brand their victims on the face and on the neck, on parts of the skin where even with long hair and clothing, hard to hide it. Now, they're not doing this so much as often these days because that became hard evidence when we took them to court. We tell them to watch out for a friend with a lot of hotel swag, hotel pens, hotel pads, but most importantly, hotel keys that open up hotel room doors. You know, they used to have so much, but now they have next to nothing. They barely make it to school. If they do see them at school, they look like they're totally out of it. At this point, they're not just withdrawing. They might actively be avoiding family and friends, might have a second cell phone or somebody's paying their cell phone bill, fake ID, or more sexualized content on their social media profiles. We advise young people to keep their phones or their devices password protected, to not share their passwords with anyone unless it's their parents who are paying their bill. We let them know that the facial recognition, right, is a convenience, but it also poses a risk because anybody who can pick up your phone and open up your phone when you're sleeping, I've even tried it with my eyes closed, my mouth open, and I'm snoring, you can still get into my phone, which means you can access all my pictures, you can access all my banking, you can access all my information. We let them know that there are warning signs all along the way, that if we can spot the warning signs in the luring and grooming stage, we can actually stop trafficking from happening. We let them know that if they spot something, suspicious or shady, not to jump in because that would put them at risk. We let them know, well, at the end of the presentation, we give them a long list of who they can call for help or information. We talk about healthy relationships and what those might entail, like choice, consent, healthy boundaries, and conflict resolution. We let them know that there are rights in a relationship, right? And that if these rights are not being satisfied, then that relationship is probably not safe. Another scenario that we test out with them, somebody is picking their friend up every day, but the friend won't talk about it other than to say it's a family friend. So here, we want them to take a good look at their friend's baseline behavior. We're all different. Some of us share a lot of information. Some of us are very closed-lipped. Now, if they have a friend who normally tells them everything, but suddenly says nothing, we want them to remember that that's a huge change in their behavior, and that is a red flag in itself. We talk about travel safety, wanting them to have the safest options. We tell them that, if they ever have to get a ride home from a friend, they should take a selfie and text that selfie to whoever's waiting for them at home, but to get the license plate of the car in the background. Because if they don't make it home, we at least know who was supposed to get them home, who might have seen them last. We can start the investigation from there. We let them know that a good tool would be to share their live location with their parents and caregivers. Say they don't make it home, right? Say they're late. At least you can follow where they are. Me personally, I will use Snapchat with the young people in my life because they're using Snapchat already. The other one that we recommend is 3 words, because that one, it doesn't require Wi-Fi. It doesn't require, a connection in order to work. We let them know that there have been instances of young people, right, who were saved for the mere fact that they had a GPS app on their phones, right? So that is one way to ensure that at least we know where they are. Another thing we ask them to do is to start walking around with emergency cash money. In the event of a brownout or a blackout, they're hungry, they need a ride home, they can afford that. We ask them how they feel about somebody asking them, no, not to share their juicy secret. We make sure that they understand that there's a difference between privacy and secrecy, and that a lot of the times these predators will ask us, to keep the relationship a secret so that they can keep moving on undetected. We let them know that it'd be better to say to their friend, if you ever tell me something that I feel that puts you at risk, puts me at risk, puts anybody at risk, and it's something I can't handle on my own, because maybe it's a train wreck in slow motion about to happen, that friend has to be okay with them going to a trusted parent or a trusted caregiver to get the help that they need. We let them know that there's a difference between a private or a secret relationship, and there's nothing special about hiding who we're with. Another thing we check out with young people, how they feel about somebody telling them to dress sexy for a party. We surprise them by telling them, that this doesn't bother us. Sometimes we don't say what we mean or mean what we say. That sometimes, getting snatched and looking snatched are 2 different things. In the event of them hitting up a party, we want them to establish a safe word with parents and caregivers, that if they ever say this word out loud or text it, no questions asked, no hesitation, you're on your way to get them at the address that they provided before they left the house, or they're sharing their live location with you. We also want them to have reasonable, believable reasons why they can't, why they won't, or why they have to go, right? An example that I give them, they have no idea. Nobody has any idea what I might call my dad. Dad, daddy, pa, papa, baba. But my dad and I would know which is the right one, which is the wrong one. I call out the wrong word there. Boom, effective safe word. I can get out of there under the radar. If they're starting to go to parties, we ask them to pay attention to their environments, to let them know that traffickers put on parties. If they're ever seeing, like a house party in a house that doesn't look like people actually live there, if people look like they're really out of it, like they're on some strong substances, if it looks like there's more, of one gender than another at this party, to understand that this might not be a safe space. And at that point, text the safe word to you or call you, arrange the ride, talk about whatever reason they need to get out of there and to keep themselves safe. We ask them how they feel about body pics, nude pics, because, young people are sending these pics, sometimes not even on purpose, right? We let them know that traffickers look for intimate and personal details, including pictures, right, as leverage. Do those things for me, or I'm going to tell everybody your secret. Do those things for me, or I'm going to show everybody those pictures. We talk about revenge porn. We don't use those words, but it's there on the screen, right? We also talk about sextortion. We had a case, 16-year-old girl, her ex was threatening her to ruin her with the pics that they had shared during their relationship. And she was smart. She said, you're in possession of child pornography. I hope the cops don't find out about that. And that was enough that he didn't post up those pictures. But if they're ever in a situation, right, where somebody's sending them, some threats or trying to extort them, Need Help Now and cybertip.ca would help immediately to get the accounts disabled and to pull those images offline. True or not true images, because these days with AI, people can make fake pictures of anything. We let them know that it's not enough to just not send the picture, that once it's in the cloud, once you've taken the picture, a hacker can get into that and steal it and give it to the trafficker. Another one, how do you feel about your friend meeting somebody on Instagram and then driving to Montreal to meet them? We let them know that there are a lot of catfish out there, people pretending to be people who they aren't. And sometimes it is legit, it is true. So in a case like that, have them come here, meet on our turf, meet on our terms, and never meet alone. We tell them a story about how two girls from Guelph got trafficked by a local Toronto DJ, that oftentimes, these traffickers don't look like bad guys you want to run away from. They look like people you want to run towards. Like, he's a music producer, he's got connections, he's got friends in the modeling industry, and they would love you. They're recruiting for the Leafs and they're scouting for the Raps. We ask them how they feel about a stranger walking up to them and talking to them in the food court. And the interesting part here, a lot of young people would allow their best friend to drive 6 hours to Montreal to go meet a stranger that they only knew from Instagram, but this will creep them out. That's because of COVID-19, wearing masks, social distancing, but that could be the reason it makes sense. It could be a friendly stranger who's immunocompromised, right? Who's just lonely, looking for conversation. We also let them know traffickers hang out in the malls. So there was a case. Two girls were hanging in the mall. Three teenage boys were following them. At first, they were flattered. They flirted back. The boys were cute. When the boys didn't stop following them, they got creeped out. They went into a store to be under camera to get help from an associate, called their parents, called the cops. Cops came to investigate. Turns out those three teenage boys were predators, but they weren't working alone. The person who hadn't quite entered into the story just yet was the harmless-looking, middle-aged, parent-looking type person who was just about to come along to offer to help protect those girls against those bad teenage boys. And that was the ringleader. That was the boss trafficker. So strangers, coming up to them, telling them that they're guardian angels, good Samaritans, concerned citizens who just want to help them out. We tell people, if you don't know them, please don't blindly trust them. A lot of bad guys out there pretending to be good guys. Last one. With help from a friend, 17-year-old friend of theirs, so grade 11, has been going on dates, so engaging in sexual activity for money, and assures you nobody's forcing them, their body, their choice. Now, a lot of young people are mixed on this one, right? But what we assure them, if that young person is a minor, and they are, it is trafficking 100% of the time. A young person does not have agency to consent. So nobody actually consents, though. On the outside looking in, it does look like a choice is made, but nobody ever consents to being trafficked. Consent must always be a clear yes, must always be rational, reasonable, sober. It has to be granted every time and ongoing. But the most important thing to remember is that consent must always be willing. Once you have manipulation, threats, coercion involved, consent doesn't actually happen. Now that's the problem. A lot of young people don't realize that they didn't consent. She said yes to a designer purse. He said yes to a new pair of Jordans. They both said yes to making money for the future together. But at no point in time does anybody say yes to being trafficked. And if they don't understand that manipulation is nuanced, right, and subtle, then they don't understand that they've been victimized. Then they also don't know that they can leave or escape or get help. There are a lot of different barriers. So the purpose of our presentation with these scenarios is to show young people that gut instinct is not just what we think or feel, it's what we know. It's a deeper collective wisdom derived from everything we've ever seen, heard, been taught, or told, informing us how we should be reacting or responding. We let them know that if, they get a knot in their belly, their shoulders get tight, alarm bells in their heads, or their skin starts to crawl, to listen to that and to trust it, because the brain can be fooled, the heart can be blind, but the gut doesn't know how to lie. We tell them to trust their guts, but to talk about what's going on with a trusted adult to help them unpack whatever is happening. We give them the right words because survivors didn't always have the right words. We let them know short, concise, I feel unsafe would work really effectively. Sometimes we cannot vocalize or verbalize our need for help. So we, familiarize them with the SOS hand signal, right? We let them know that we don't expect them to have memorized everything. So we're going to send a resource PDF full of all the most important things we want them to remember, including who to reach out to for help. We email that resource to all of the educators who book our presentations. We ask them to upload it into Google Classroom, and then we ask the students to download that resource onto their phone. The hope is that they'll never, ever, ever need to look at it again. But if they did, it'll be right there at their fingertips. Included in that resource was all the numbers that they need to call for help or information. 911 for imminent danger, Kids Help Phone for relationship advice, whether it's trafficking or not. Canadian Human Trafficking Hotline is their one-stop shopping number. Maybe they're doing their ISU. Maybe they want to know what the government's doing. Maybe they want to report a suspicion. We also assure them that our team at Covenant House Toronto is there should somebody ever need help to rebuild their lives, right? For counseling, for wraparound support. We let them know that in that resource, all the regional police services, the numbers are there. Same with victim services. So if they move from Toronto to Brampton, to Burlington, to Richmond Hill, to Pickering, that resource can move with them because we're giving them all the GTA resources. We assure young people that sex trafficking is never their fault, that if they or somebody that they know ever needs help, to reach out immediately. We thank them for their participation and their attention, and then we test them with a Kahoot challenge. So, oh, there we go. We evaluate our presentations and how we're doing our performance with these Kahoot challenges. So not only are we asking them, about what they've learned, right? And reinforcing that knowledge that they've gained, we're also asking them how they think we're doing and how clearly they understood us. So we're constantly trying to improve our performance. We also use testimonials to promote our programs, because it's one thing for us to tell schools that this is a valuable program. It's another thing for teachers and students to tell their peers and their colleagues as well. We consistently stay on top of research and trends to make sure that the information that we're providing is up to date. We collaborate with other teams at Covenant House. And recently, I just co-hosted the first ever anti-sex trafficking symposium with TDSB for TDSB students. And what we did was innovative. We invited all of the community partners to share the stage at one time. So we gave them the most comprehensive, and in-depth look at anti-sex trafficking. We started with female identifying students, and in January, we will host another symposium for male identifying students as well. In the spring, we will host a summit for grade 8 students. So I think I'm at my time now. It's 45 minutes. I don't know if anybody has any questions, but if you do, you can let me know in the chat, but you might also be required to go elsewhere. So I want to thank you for attending this session, and I hope I increased your knowledge around sex trafficking.
Thank you. Yes, you did. Very well. Wonderful.
Okay, we got a question. How does a parent begin this conversation? And how can we get involved? Okay, so if you'd like to begin the conversation with your child and you want some help and structure, we have teacher-led modules that a parent can also use. So my advice would be to email me. The easiest one to remember is presentations@covenanthouse.ca. That will reach my entire team, and we'd be happy to share that module with you. It includes a slide deck, and it includes video that you can play. Or you can tell me what school your your child attends, and I will make sure to book that school or let you know if we're already booked at that school. Because sometimes, you know, learning about something when it's a one-off in and out is not as effective as if it's tied into the curriculum at school, if it's supported by a presentation, and then it's also supported by the conversations that we have at home. How can you get involved? Well, how would you like to be involved, right? If you'd like to volunteer in some capacity, Covenant House Toronto has a volunteer form on our website, and then you can send the information in. You could also put in a note that you'd like specifically to be involved in RPP, which is my program. That's the acronym that they would understand. Or you could just call it the School Prevention and Awareness Program. But if you'd like to continue the conversation, I recognize that we don't have too much time. If you want to email me directly, there's my email. tarlatini@covenanthouse.ca, and my name is Susie. If you go onto the Covenant House Toronto website and you go into our response early intervention, you will see a picture of me and you'll recognize that you're in the right spot, and you can also email me from there. No other questions. Thank you so much, everyone. I'm still here if anybody has any questions.
Thank you so much.
It's my pleasure.
Yes, thank you. That was outstanding presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, if you're interested, maybe, I don't know if they'll invite parents to the symposiums, but seeing it in real life is like a whole big thing. It's a whole big different thing. Yeah.
So how would invitations could we request through the school? Like how potentially could we get invited?
Well, what I'll do, right? I will talk to the head of professional support services who I work with closely in partnership, and I will let her know that there is an appetite for, you know, parents to be able to join in, and then she will work out the logistics and stuff like that. See, it's not up to me, it'd be up to TDSB. And maybe what it is we add on a fourth step to our symposium roster, and we do the male identifying in January, we do the younger kids in the spring, and then we also do the parents before the end of the year. That's also possible, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's really useful. And then just, you know, quickly to say that this to me seems like awareness we should start building as early as middle school, you know, even before that, but really at middle school age when now, you know, their social media lives are heightened in ways that we're not, you know, that we don't anticipate. So it's really just, I think, an all around important awareness for parents and for the children. So.
Absolutely. We offer this presentation for grade 7 and up because victims are lured as young as age 13. They're lured younger.
Yes.
Right? But, you know, at 13, it ties into the curriculum. We're not teaching them something that maybe they didn't know of before. But if you wait too much longer, then it's no longer prevention. Now you're having to work and do responsive work because maybe they fell prey. Maybe they fell for that trafficker's tactics, and we want to do prevention as much as possible. The pieces don't always go back together the same way. So if we can stop it from happening and make sure it doesn't happen, if everybody knows what to look for and we're all aware and we're all watching each other's backs, we're going to make it really hard for a trafficker to operate. That is the goal.
Yes, thank you. What I found most valuable just in my own was the what to look for through your presentation, right? What are the things we should be, you know, noticing and questioning if we're seeing, right? Like taking the time to actually say, hey, that's new, that's different, you know, and then taking steps there. So yes, thank you again for that. I really appreciate your time and your wisdom.
Thank you so much.
Have a great day.
You too. Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.